What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Gamescript, looking at a Thanksgiving special edition here. And we got the Chicago Bears versus the Detroit Lions, and it's a game with a 9.5-point spread in favor of Detroit. But there are some matchup situations here that I think we can exploit. I don't think it's going to be a 9.5-point spread in this game, and we can get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. In this edition, we're looking at a special Thanksgiving slate in a game between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. We got a 48.5-point total with Chicago as 9.5-point dogs. They're playing in Detroit in this one. Divisional game. It's a game where there is a lot of ownership leaning towards Caleb Williams. I guess based off of the situation last week, I think with the situation also with a new offensive coordinator, people think that Caleb Williams is showing signs of life. But, I don't know that that is a situation that I want to lean into 30% ownership on him as a quarterback on the main slate. We can take a look and see if there's a projection on the showdown slate here in a second. But before I get into this, make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to trigger a shorter video later on, or at least my favorite picks in the comments section. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking for 1,300 subscribers. I only need about 90 to get there. So you're going to want to subscribe anyway so you can sign up for the alerts for when these showdown slates have come out. Been doing well as far as just kind of projecting the game script and the winners of these games. The players have been hit or miss like throughout the season. It's been kind of a weird season, but I did have 1 week where I almost won 118K, and then I ended up losing that on the very last play of overtime in that Kansas City game when Kareem Hunt scored the touchdown. If that game had ended in regulation, I would have won 118K that week. And, that was a that was the biggest it's just sucked. Let's just put it that way. So let's get into this slate. Looking at, let's see, a matchup between the Bears and Detroit. So let's go and look at this player pool real quick. All right, so this is a game where Detroit is 9.5-point favorites. Just a divisional game, 9.5-point favorites. Detroit is banged up on the defense. Chicago's banged up on the defense too. Where Chicago's banged up, it's an advantage to Detroit because it's going to hurt their run defense. And obviously, Chicago, they've been struggling on the run defense as it is, but Detroit loves to run the ball. So we can expect a probably a pretty heavy run game plan on the Detroit side in this one. Obviously, you got those two stud running backs. The situation with Jared Goff, he's been efficient all year, so he hasn't been putting up a ton of fantasy points. But last week or 2 weeks ago, he ended up scoring 37 DraftKings points. I think that that's more of a situation where they wanted to get him right against Jacksonville, an easy defense. Versus the prior week he faced Houston, he threw 5 picks. So his confidence was a little shot after that. So they gave him the green light just to nuke Jacksonville the next week, and he ended up getting 5 touchdowns in that one. So Jared Goff, he is in a matchup where Chicago is a little bit more difficult matchup. They are giving up only 13.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So, definitely a run funnel situation here for the Detroit side. Like I said, there's a few injuries on the Chicago side, but those I think should mainly affect the running game and be an advantage for the running game. Detroit, on the other hand, their defense has been decimated. Going to go over here and share this. You can see, um, well, first of all, like Taylor Decker is going to be out on the offensive line. That's another reason why we might want to lean away from Goff. He's going to have less protection there. Um, we got Amon-Ra and David Montgomery are both questionable. They asked Dan Campbell about Montgomery's injury, and Campbell basically just kind of laughed them off on it. So it seems like Montgomery should be okay. But where we want to pay attention to the injuries is look at this defense. Basically, Detroit, they're missing like half depth on the IR on their defense. That's pretty that's pretty significant amount of depth that they're missing there. But it hasn't really affected them up until this point. They've been playing really well on defense, one of the best defenses in the league, especially against the quarterback position. Carlton Davis is out this week, though, so that's going to be significant for those perimeter receivers on the Chicago side. We're looking at Odunze and DJ Moore in that situation. Odunze is who I would maybe lean towards a little bit more, just because he has been getting more of the deeper targets, but he's also been getting 10 targets a game under this new offensive coordinator. Take a look at Odunze here. 10 targets last week, 10 targets the week before. He only had 5 receptions last week. He barely crossed 39 yards. I know that because his prop was 41.5, and I had him going over that prop total. Couldn't get there on 10 targets last week. 10 targets the week before, he only got 65 yards. So Odunze he's in a spot where he's getting heavily targeted, and if he's getting heavily targeted against a weakened Detroit secondary, then that could be a good situation for him. I lean him over DJ Moore. DJ Moore's been getting a lot more shallow depth targets. He has been last week, I believe he was getting a bunch of targets behind the line of scrimmage. So he wasn't getting a ton of he's getting more of yak type targets. He made good with them. He ended up getting 100 yards in that game and ended up scoring 29.9 DraftKings points. But DJ Moore, if he is taking like lower ADOT passes, then that helps me to like Odunze a little bit more this week, and that helps make that decision a little bit easier if you're only doing one lineup or if you're doing limited amount of lineups in this one. Get you the exact information. I saw this, I believe, in a Rich Rebar article. Let's see. Let me try and find you the exact quote on that, because I want to get you guys the information that I had. It's a free article this week, by the way, by Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis. So I recommend everybody check it out. It's the worksheet, and it's always a good one to reference for a bunch of these types of nuggets. So let me find that game here and look up DJ Moore. All right, so Moore. All right, Moore has been the target who's garnered all of Williams' increased throwing of short area targets. In the past 2 games, Moore has a target depth of 0.86 and 3.57 yards downfield. So in a situation where we're looking at Carlton Davis out and potential for more deeper shots thrown in this game, especially if the Bears are going to be playing from behind, that would make Odunze very interesting in this game. Potential even captain option with the volume that he's getting, especially if they're able to connect on 1 or 2 of those balls. So keep that in mind with Odunze. He's going to be interesting this week. Both on the main slate and in showdown situation. Let's look at Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is questionable. He had a big week a couple weeks ago, but for the most part, he's been pretty pedestrian. For his standards, for a guy who's at 1,500 in the captain, that's a pretty steep price to pay. Limits the rest of your lineup, and if he puts up, one of these, 15-point games or, like lower point total games, 18 DraftKings points might even be not enough for a $1,500 captain salary. So just keep that in mind with Amon-Ra. On top of that, as far as the matchup goes, the Bears have actually been really good against slot receivers. They're only giving up 7.8 DraftKings points a game to the slot. They've been more susceptible to perimeter receivers, which favors Jameson Williams a little bit more. And another guy who could benefit this week is going to be Tim Patrick, because Tim Patrick, we get Khalif Raymond, who's going to be out this week, so I expect more opportunity to go to Tim Patrick and Jameson Williams. And Tim Patrick has been really good since he joined Detroit. As you can see, he's only out of all his targets, he's only not connected on one of them. So expect a potential opportunity for Tim Patrick in this one at 3,600. Let's take a look at some of these other guys. The guys I like the most are going to be Gibbs and Montgomery. I think that both those guys are going to be set up for decent games, especially with that spread being so high, 9.5 points. Question is should it be 9.5 points? Like, if it's a division game and a couple teams that know each other pretty well, Goff's not exactly in the best matchup. The running backs are in a good matchup, but they have a situation on the Chicago side where they could attack the perimeter a little bit more without Carlton Davis in. It could be a situation where the game's a little bit closer than 9.5 points, and it could even go under. Division opponents know each other pretty well. They haven't faced. I don't know if they faced each other earlier this year. Now, it looks like this is their first time facing Caleb Williams, and especially this new offensive coordinator. He's only played a couple games. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit's able to come up with a decent game plan to hold them at bay, especially against a rookie quarterback. And the Detroit defense has been one of the best defenses in the league. Another point, like, where, might lean us a little bit more towards the under. On top of that, Chicago has obviously been one of the better defenses in the league this year. 47.5 seems high, but obviously with the amount of points or 48.5 seems high, with the amount of points that Detroit's able to put up. That's going to put this over, like, in play at any time, but mainly on the Detroit side and less so on the Chicago side. So going to take a look right now to see if I got some idea of ownership perspective here. So if I'm looking at Chicago and Detroit's ownership projections, looks like the most popular captain is going to be Amon-Ra. So, I mean, he's an easy fade at captain for me at 1,500. Jahmyr Gibbs is right after him. If we wanted to attack that run game in the captain, like, I would go with probably Montgomery over Gibbs. Montgomery seems to be, pretty good health despite the questionable tag. And according to Campbell, he was ready to come back in the game after he got taken out last week, but they just didn't need him to go back into it. He is projected under 10% ownership, which is going to make Montgomery an interesting captain option. If we get to a point where we need a cheap captain option, that's where I look at guys like Odunze, who could help us jam in some more of these studs into our lineups. And if Odunze is able to hit on a couple of those perimeter shots, then he can easily pay off as a captain. If you watch my show, a lot of times we'll miss on these captains because we go for the guys that are like 6% and under for the most part. And a lot of times we hit. So when we hit big. When we miss, it's on to the next one. I totally whiffed on the Chargers Quentin Johnson captain pick last week. But if you look at the lineup itself, it was set up to actually have a decent shot of taking first place. If Quentin Johnson, he had one opportunity where the guy was dropping balls left and right, but he dropped one pass where he was wide open, had daylight in front of him, could have potentially ran it in for a 70-yard touchdown, which would have completely changed, his game, would have given him, like another 16 points in the flex, which would have been 24 in the captain, which would have shot teams that I had with him in the captain to first, because the ability that I had by putting him in the captain was enabled me to add a bunch of studs into my lineup in a game where those studs were all expensive and it was projected to be a shootout. I put up a goose egg in captain with him, but that could have easily swung 24 points in my favor. I had Justin Herbert obviously stacked with him in that game, and that would have added even more points onto it. So gives you an idea of why I go for these guys, these cheaper guys with monster upside, so that I can get in a decent amount of studs, especially on a team like Detroit, where we're looking at a bunch of expensive guys. So if you put a guy like Odunze in the captain, then you can open up a lot of doors. But let's say for our first build, we want to put in Gibbs. Gibbs in a game where they're heavily favored. We got some injury concerns with Montgomery. So let's put Gibbs in that captain spot. He's going to be a chalkier captain, but I like him better than Amon-Ra. But let's put Amon-Ra in there too. And let's put Odunze in there since I talked him up already. That's going to give us 6,300 per guy. If we wanted to get a quarterback, let's get Caleb Williams in there. I know he's going to be popular this week. So we got Caleb Williams to Odunze. We got St. Brown and Gibbs in there already. Going to leave us with 5K per guy. If we go down here, look at LaPorta's price. LaPorta's in a pretty good matchup against Chicago here this week. Chicago is giving up 11.4 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. But LaPorta is a guy that we could easily see have a decent game. If we put him in, we're at 5,600. Leaves us in the Lions defense situation. Don't hate the Lions defense. I don't hate either of the kickers. This week, we're playing in a dome. Roschon Johnson, if you think that they're able to get to the goal line. Roschon Johnson's been poaching a bunch of touchdown opportunities or goal line opportunities. One touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks under this new offensive coordinator, to give you an idea. So, a lot of options there. If we got LaPorta, St. Brown, and Gibbs in there, maybe we want to swap out Williams for Goff. You could go in that direction. Leaves us with 4,800 left. And in that situation, we're looking at the Bears kicker, Roschon Johnson again, Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's cheap too at 3,600. That's ridiculously cheap. Let's put Kmet in there. Let's see on the Detroit side of that matchup. Not the best matchup. Detroit's only giving up 7.2 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, but Detroit is giving up a decent amount to the slot. So maybe we get Keenan Allen in there. Keenan Allen's at 7K. Let's take out LaPorta. Let's take out Goff and put back in Caleb in that situation. We got Caleb to Odunze and Allen. And then we got Amon-Ra and Gibbs on the other side. let's say we want to go mainly with the run game. Let's say the run game just takes over this game for the Detroit side. Leaves us with 4,400. We got Williams in the passing game on the other side. 4,400 gives us an opportunity to put in LaPorta. You can get Johnson in there. You can get Komet in there. Bears D, if you want to go that direction. Plenty of options. You got Tim Patrick there too. Let's say we wanted to, if we wanted to put Tim Patrick in there and take Montgomery out, we have the whole slate open to us at that point. So gives you an idea. You can build some really good lineups there with Gibbs. I don't hate that at all. Doesn't seem to have any restrictions there where we would need to go Odunze. But if we wanted to go Odunze in the captain, let's check that out. See what it gets us. We get Odunze in there. Let's put Amon-Ra in there. Let's put Gibbs, Caleb Williams. Going to leave us with 5,700 per guy still. If we wanted to do the same thing with Montgomery, 2,900 leaves us with Patrick as an option. So you can do a lot with Odunze, just to give you an illustration there. If we got Caleb Williams in there, Caleb Williams has been doing a lot of rushing, but maybe we want to get like one of his other receivers in there. Let's put Allen. That leaves us with 4,500. Gives us options like LaPorta. I mean, this build's going to be super easy, like any direction that you want to go this week. But just keep that in mind. If you go 4-2 on the Chicago side, you're going to be really different. And basically, Detroit 9.5-point favorites. I think it's a game that could go closer. I think it's a game that could also go under the total. I lay it out in my main show. You're going to want to subscribe to the channel. Check out that show. It's already posted. I'm looking for 1,300 subscribers. I'm about 90 short of that, so help me out there. And hit that like button. Looking for 30 likes to put out the next video, the shorter video. And I'm going to be covering all these game scripts for all these games this week. So you can check them out. They'll probably be up on YouTube as the games are progressing, if I don't get it up all in the morning at the same time. So just check out the channel, and you can see if those games have been posted. Let's see if there's any other direction that I want to go. Jameson Williams. Okay, so Detroit, Chicago's been a little susceptible to wideouts. So let's do a Jameson Williams lineup as well. Let me see what his ownership is. He's sub 6%. He's right in that sweet spot that I like to target for captains. So if you want to go with a Jameson Williams build, let's put Goff in there. And let's put Gibbs because it's a little bit more competitive in this game. Let's get Caleb Williams in there. I think if we got Williams in there, I want to get Odunze in there. Leaves us with 2,700. We can go Patrick in there. Although I don't like to have that many pass options if I got a wide receiver in the captain spot. Let's see. Probably want to do something a little bit, change things up a little bit. Let's take Gibbs out of there. Let's put in there. That'll give us a little bit more salary to play with. Up to 3,700. We can get Komet in there in that situation. I feel a lot better about that. You get Patrick in there. That's a little bit better because that way we only have one really. Actually, Montgomery's been catching a decent amount of receptions recently. He's got like 3 targets, 2 targets, 3 targets. So he's been getting a pretty decent amount of work in the passing game. But, you guys get the idea. Like, there's a lot of directions that you can go. I think with this game, like I said, the under, I think it goes under. I think it's closer game than is being projected. And I like those potential opportunities for, captains like Jameson Williams and Romo Odunze. And I also like the running backs for Detroit as options in the captain as well. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the other Gamescript episodes. It's going to be one for each game of this Thanksgiving slate, and there's going to be one for the main slate as well. So have a good Thanksgiving, guys, and check out the next show.